I signed up because I am almost a lifelong lover of opera, the drama, the music, the color, the acting, and it was just delightful. It was so much fun.
You have a long history with opera?
I do. One of the books that my parents read to us when we were little was Hansel and Gretel. Well, at the time, of course, there was no television, but the Metropolitan Opera broadcast around Christmas time was, and still is, I think, almost always Hansel and Gretel. There were 4 of us kids in the family. I was the oldest. And the deal was that we could bring our pillows down and put them on the living room floor and listen to Hansel and Gretel instead of taking a nap that day. Well, the little ones, of course, always fell asleep, but I didn't. And because Mom and Dad had read this book to us, and we, of course, had looked at it ourselves, we had pictures that went with the music. And so that was my very first introduction to opera.
When did you start going to operas, like the big things?
Yeah, the first big thing that I went to was with my maternal grandmother, and I was probably 11 or 12, and I was visiting her in Chicago, and took me downtown, and we saw a film of Madama Butterfly. I do remember the color and the pageantry, but the thing that I remember the most about that was how terribly embarrassed I was because my grandmother just sobbed at the end. An 11 or 12-year-old is not comfortable with her grandmother sobbing in public.
Madame Butterfly, I think I've seen that 4 or 5 times, and every time I cry.
Yeah.
It affects me so much. And I think that that's part of the power of opera, because it's not just theater. It's the emotion that inhabits the music, and then you put that together with the words and the acting, and it's a dynamite combination.
And that's certainly what we learned in this class. You really got across to us how opera is this total experience that just touches your heart. And if the plot doesn't make you cry, the beauty of the music will make you cry, or the beauty of the set, or all of it together. And it just gives me goosebumps to talk about it.
You were the Duke.
Yes.
And the Duke is not the character to make you cry, unless you're crying in anguish
Yes.
or anger, because he's such a rotten guy.
Yeah, he's a scoundrel.
He's a scoundrel. But you kind of got a kick out of that.
I did. I loved it.
You were terrific. What are some things you remember about the class?
When I decided to go to the class, I hoped that there wasn't any performance element to it. And then when I got in there, I found out that, indeed, there is a performance element every single week. And then was chosen to be the Duke. Actually, I volunteered.
You did volunteer.
I did. And I thought to myself, doggone it, I'm 3/4 of a century old, and I have nothing to lose. I could stand up there and make a fool of myself, and that was okay.
That's what's so wonderful for me, is that they are so enthusiastic, and a lot of times they don't have filters. They just say what they think. And it's really quite refreshing and quite wonderful. One of my favorite moments is when I inserted popular songs from the 50s and 60s into the libretto.
Yes.
So at the very end of the opera, Rigoletto is bending over dead Gilda, his daughter, and going, "Oh, Gilda, Gilda, oh, my daughter." And the song that I had inserted was Teen Angel.
Yes.
And Brian, who played Rigoletto, starts
Singing.
And what
Teen
happened
Angel.
then?
Everybody joined in.
Everybody joined in.
Yes.
The 35 senior citizens singing Teen Angel.
Right.
They remembered by
They
heart.
did, yeah.
I didn't know whether to laugh or cry.